Okay, welcome to the pilot edition of whatever this program will be called. There it is. There's some titles that we didn't have prepared because it didn't have a name. The show with no name, but it is a show where we take a deep dive, a personal deep dive into a game that's affected us when we first played it and maybe reinforced our love for the medium of video games. And we have a guest with us today who is here to talk about Doom, the OG Doom, but with a twist. Would you care to introduce yourself, sir?
Introduction. Thank you, Dave. Dave, it's really cool to be here. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. It's humbling and a pleasure. My name is... Always a pleasure. My name is Golgo Golgibbon. I go by that handle on Twitch. I get called a lot of different things. I either get Golgo, Gibbon, Gibbs. Any of those is fine by me. But
hell yeah. I should have asked you that before, but I have been calling you Gibbs for a long time now.
I think you coined Gibbon. You were the first to Gibbon. You were first to doth me Gibbon, and then Gibbs kind of was a natural progression.
Because we go back a little way now. We met on Twitch, so we are streamer friends, and it's probably about a year now or something, isn't it, Gibbs?
Coming up to it, like 9 months, I think.
Yeah, it's quite the bromance. It's good. So it's good to have you here, and what we're going to do is talk about a game that you may well know called Doom. And we've got a similar experience with finding this game and where we played it the most. And I believe that is on PS1, which is probably not what people are expecting us to talk about when we're doing this deep dive. So where did you find this game? Where were you? What were you doing in your life?
I'll have to set the scene, and I'll probably dox myself a little bit when I talk about it because it's going to reveal that I'm a gamer of a certain age. And I think as I set the scene, that will become apparent and you'll realise, and it might click in your mind. But I think if I go way back in like my history of being a gamer and enjoying games, I started gaming on the Master System.
Yeah, me too.
And I was always a generation behind because just because of the way my family was at the time, we were always a generation behind the current tech. And I think on the Master System, I played a lot of 2D platformers. It was either like shmups and shoot 'em ups, side-scrolling kind of things, or platforming. I had the Jurassic Park game. I remember that one quite vividly.
Yeah, same. Well, I didn't have the Jurassic Park game. I was playing games like that too, like Golden Axe, which is only a one-player thing on the Master System. Damn it.
Yeah, and yeah, Sonic on the Master System was always a letdown compared to the Sega, but that's another thing. But
well,
there was a game. Yeah. There was a game on the Master System, Operation Wolf. Did you ever play Operation Wolf?
Yeah, it was a arcade shooter, wasn't it? Like a first person, but like on rails, shooting with a gun.
Exactly, obviously. Like a light gun game. So the reason why I brought that up is because I think from a very young age, I wanted to shoot things. I don't know, that sounds terrible.
I think we all did.
I think we all did. I think for some reason, it was violent times. And Operation Wolf was the first game I remember playing that was from a first-person perspective where I could shoot stuff. And it was a blast. It was great. And then moving from that, it was on the Mega Drive. When I got the Mega Drive, there was Alien Storm. I don't know if you remember Alien Storm. It was like a beat 'em up, kind of like Streets of Rage.
Man, there was a robot in it that had a move where you shoot fire out of your foot into like an alien. Yeah?
It was nonsense. It was nonsense. It was great. And
he had a whip. It's pretty awful to replay now as well.
But there were sections in that. I don't know if you remember. There were sections in between the levels where it would go to a first-person perspective. And you'd have a crosshair, and you'd be like blasting your way through a supermarket or blasting your way through a video TV shop as you do in the 90s.
Yeah, that was good, man. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was cool.
But the reason why I mentioned that is because I think those were the first two games that kind of got me a taste for the first-person perspective and the idea of and violence and the idea of a shooter. Yeah. It was an interesting child.
So there was a game for you, Gibbs. There was a game.
There was a game for me. There was something for me. And then I remember then along comes the PS1 and 3D and Doom. Now, I didn't play Doom for the first time on the PS1. Actually, I played it for the first time ever. So you asked me where I was in my life. I was at my grandparents' house. My cousin came over. He was older than me. And he downloaded the shareware.
Yes, older cousins and relatives, man. They've always got the shit when you're growing up.
Introducing you to things you probably shouldn't be. So I was probably much too young to be playing Doom when it first came out. But I remember it just blew me away. It blew my mind. Like, you can imagine going from 2D Sega Mega Drive to seeing Doom for
Yeah,
the
man.
first time. It's hard. It's hard to kind of tell people, I think, the effect of that when you were there, and how that would just blow
Yeah, of what
open.
came before. Yeah, it's a crazy thing because it's something that came with like bags of atmosphere and kind of horror, and just it was just tight as well. You can just play it now and it's like as good as it was back then, and it just doesn't need kind of improving on.
Especially that first episode, that those first 8 levels that they released as a shareware version, because they did the old trick of doing the first levels last. So everything they've learned about level design, they threw it all into that first 8 episodes, because they obviously want to get people invested. So you'll go and buy the full game, right? So those first few levels are just so expertly crafted.
I didn't know that was the way they did that. That's awesome. I like that.
That's a general trick. Yeah, I think that generally that devs will try and do when it was, because games aren't really kind of level based anymore unless you kind of look at the retro or indie category. I think you've got a lot of open world games now, right? But when you're doing it like that, I think that's generally how in interviews and stuff, I see that's how they've done it, which I also thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. Yeah, when I was introduced to it, it was a brother-in-law, and he had a PC, and it was where I'd go to kind of play Alone in the Dark. Sam and Max Hit the Road. It was kind of LucasArts time, but then he showed me Doom, and I was like, what the holy hell is this? And then the first chance I actually got to buy it was on PlayStation, PS1, because I didn't have a PC for it. And yeah, man, it was the same kind of thing that just kind of blew you away. And there is a major difference between the original on the PC and on the PlayStation, which we'll go into, is the soundtrack, which you reminded me of talking about it. And when I started listening to some of the soundtrack again, I just thought, man, this was actually way different, because I've played so many different ones since then, and they're based on the original. You kind of forget that this PlayStation one was a bit of a standout.
A lot of the ports are all really, really different, but the PlayStation one definitely is the standout for me, because that is the one I played. Like, when I say I talk about Doom, that's the game that in my head I picture. Although I've played a hell of a lot of what is now the Unity ports, the original MS-DOS version, it's the PS1 version that comes to my mind. And I just remembered being dropped in that first level with the soundtrack and the atmosphere and the light. Like, there was no other game. I think it was the first game I played on the PS1. I was trying to remember while we were chatting, getting ready for this, what is the first game I had on the PS1? I'm pretty sure it was Doom.
That is a cool game to get first.
First time was like, wow. So yeah, and it sets the bar so high too. Like, you play other games and they don't really. I think I had Rayman. I must have had Rayman as well. Doom and Rayman's quite a big.
A Jumping Flash, I think, was like one of the release games on PlayStation, and you look at Doom. So let's listen to some of this is the intro. If any of you grew up on Doom on PlayStation 1, this is what you'd hear when you loaded it up. And it does get you fired up, man. It used to, what me and my mate used to do with PlayStation, you could link up. So he used to bring his PlayStation around to mine, and then what we would do is link them up, sit back to back, and have a TV, like my TV in front of me, his TV in front of him, and we would play 2-player deathmatch. And this would be
such a cool setup. Yeah,
it is. It was mint, like back in the day.
You don't get that anymore, do you? Like that couch kind of like multiplayer. I think it's made a bit of a resurgence recently, because I think devs have realised people want it, but
yeah,
there was a whole gap of like, I actually totally missed out on multiplayer, which was a shame for me. I think I was a single player gamer for many years. I didn't get into multiplayer until like the more recent era of gaming, so I never had that experience you had of like link up and deathmatch.
Yeah, but, it was cool, man. It was kind of limited because it was just the two of you, but you could kind of like, I don't know, you had a sense of like who is better or who's having a good day on it, and just you learned to play it just together. So it was very cool, man. And what we're going to look into here is, this is the original Phobos Lab music on OG Doom, and we'll just take a little listen to that, and then we'll put on the PlayStation version just to show you what it went away from these MIDI tracks, didn't it, Gibbs?
Yeah, I don't know how it was composed. I know it was one guy who composed all the music for the PS1, a guy called Aubrey Hodges, and I'm pretty sure it was all done on like virtual instruments and still MIDI. But I know that the PS1's audio just was was much higher quality because they redid all the sounds as well. They redid like all the sound effects and all of that stuff. Because the PS1 when it first came out, you'll probably remember, had like the full AV out with great audio quality. Like you could play CDs from it and it'd be like playing it from a hi-fi.
You could. I think that was a major thing in that. So that's the original there. We're just going to put the other one on. I think that was a major thing that PlayStation were probably pushing for because they had this whole new way to enhance your experience. And it was just like CD quality music for the first time. I remember playing Wipeout and having the Prodigy play on.
Oh man, yeah.
It was a crazy moment. Like there was nothing like that before. So I think that's why they went into this, and you can hear how freaking
so dark this version.
It's awful. And like you were saying when we were talking, there's one with like some crying babies. I couldn't quite find.
I think it's like backwards babies. They've got like backwards crying babies.
Well, if there's anything worse than babies crying, it's backwards babies crying.
Backwards babies. But it's just the atmosphere. Like again, I think there was nothing I'd played before this that had this level of just dark.
It's just
ambient
dread, isn't it? You know,
pure dread, basically. Yeah, and that's the weird thing about Doom is like I think a lot of people, maybe if you see Doom now, you think it's just a mindless shooter. But it really, there's so much more going on there when you play that game in like decision making as a gamer as well. Like I think it's quite easy to look at Doom and just think, well, you're just shooting stuff, but you're making so many decisions on the fly. Like when you enter a room and into an encounter, who are you killing first? What weapons are you using? What's the right way to engage that room? It's not just a matter of going in and shooting up the room. And I think that all plays into that gameplay loop that it has that makes it so addictive. So yeah.
I agree. I mean, I don't think it can be understated. Just the gameplay mechanics of the time and just how tight it all was and how good it always felt, like marrying the audio up with the gameplay and how satisfying just that single barrel shotgun is, and the fact that I want to use that pretty much the whole time. Yeah, and occasionally if you want to clear a room, you're gonna bust out your minigun. Yeah. Let's have a quick look. This is the Unity port that we've got here.
I criminally underused the minigun, I think. I'm so attached to my shotgun like you. I love the section
as we
here
start a video with the minigun.
With the minigun. Yeah, for the piggies, you've got to. I love the section with the barrels, how you just explode the barrels and they just all of them. I've always tried to get them all in one go.
It was basically like an early version of what became like set pieces like Call of Duty did. It was just like having things set up just for ultimate destruction. It just so happened that all those piggies were right next to a load of toxic barrels that you could just explode in their face.
Talking about the barrels as well, that brings me on to like the way you could just gib enemies entirely in Doom. Like you couldn't do that in any other game, I don't think, at the time that I'd experienced. But you could, if you fire a rocket at a zombie dude, he will just explode into just this pool of viscera, and I'd never seen it.
I know. It's like it's just classic 90s. How extra violent can we make it? Like
over the top.
Yeah. It's just like with Mortal Kombat coming out, and it's just just added to that thing where people love horror movies and people love to see that kind of stuff, and just putting it in video game form when you're actually doing the massacring was a bit of a thrill back then.
But it's weird because I don't really like horror movies or like violence or anything like that. But for some reason, when you play something like this, I'm all about it. I'm so all about it. It's like I want to fire the rocket at the zombie so much.
Give me the rocket against the zombie, mate. That's all I want. So
that's all I need.
How do you think the game would review now? If you sum up basically the concept of this game, guy lands in some trouble with some. I think that's like the biggest understatement ever. He's in a bit of trouble, isn't he?
So I was thinking about this when I was playing, because I was playing for this talk, you know, just getting it fresh in my mind, getting a bit of footage for you, and I was thinking about it. If you know, talking specifically about the PS1 port, if that came out now, would probably review from a gameplay perspective quite badly, because it doesn't have any analog controller support, which is just like the golden standard now, right, for any shooter.
True, and no up and down either.
No up and down, no analog control. So it is a thumb buster, man. Like on the D-pad, your thumbs So if that would, I don't think reviewers would be very happy about that.
But you
Personally.
could argue that it doesn't need like looking up and down either. Which, like, I
But it's
know,
not the
like,
looking up. It's not that though. It's not the looking up and down. I know where you're going with that, but it's the fact that you got strafe on L1 and R1.
yeah.
Turn is on the D-pad, so you're constantly your D-pad is at full action. So full, your thumb is doing all the work here, and that would let it down. But from a gameplay perspective, I think it would do quite well, even if it reviewed. If this came out now as like an indie game, which I think it would, because it's of the genre.
Yeah.
If this came out, I could imagine like a Celeste or like a, we've got quite a lot of indie games that come out now that are using pixel art and they're using old MIDI soundtracks to set that nostalgic genre. I think it would still review as well as it reviewed back in the day.
Yeah, it's
Because
like that kind of thing. It's a genre in itself now, isn't it? Kind of to remake games from in the style of the 90s or what technology was available, but with a little bit of an extra kick.
Exactly, yeah. I think like coming back to the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is just undeniably addictive. Because, like I say, you're making so many decisions on the fly. You're deciding what enemies to dispatch first, what weapons to use. Do you need those pickups? I like to try and do it as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, try and 100% the areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that would keep people coming back.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that's good. I think it would review well again today. Can you still finish this game, sir? Have you still got the techers? How good were you back in the day, and has it faded or has it aided your training in other games?
No, I'm better now, I think, because now I like to test myself. There's a bit of a revival in speedrunning Doom now, and there are different categories you can do, and one of the categories is UV Max, which is basically you've got to play on ultra violence difficulty.
I think that is the sweet spot.
That is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
For maximum carnage.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's just the right amount of challenge, just the right amount of beasts.
It is. There's some rooms you go into, they're just packed with gunners as well. But yeah, you've got to do UV Max. So you do UV ultra-violent difficulty. You've got to max kills, max secrets, and you've got to start with the pistol at every start of every level.
At the start,
so I've been doing
just the pistol?
Just the pistol at the start of each level. So I've been doing the first episode, Knee Deep in the Dead, which is the first 8 levels.
Yeah.
I can get through the first 3, and I don't know like routes for the others, but that is keeping me playing it. That's keeping me coming back, thinking actually, when you set yourself challenges like that, it actually develops the game. I think the game has matured for me from that. Like it's more now than it was before. Before it was just kind of like you'd play through level by level, seeing how far you could get, or seeing if you could beat the game. But now when I try and play it to the point where I'm thinking like, okay, I want speed. I want to get through this quickly, but I want to do everything. I want all the monsters dead. I want all the secrets and all, not all the
I want them all dead. Yeah, they're all guilty.
I thought it was that for me has revived it. That's revived the game.
So this footage here that you got, is this on Ultraviolence, was it?
That's on, yeah, Ultraviolence. I was starting with all the guns, but...
The good thing about Ultraviolence is when if you just want a quick play, these guys have got shotguns pretty much straight away, so as soon as you finish the first room, you got yourself a shotty. You're about to go ham on some beasts. Keep calling them beasts, they're damn demons.
They're demons, they're hellspawn.
Yeah. Well, going back to the soundtrack as well, like I was playing this not so long ago, and it was pointed out to me that it is very repetitive on this soundtrack. So I'm glad like they changed it on one version, because it's hard to take.
I would have liked to see an option on the Unity port. So for people who aren't aware, the Unity port was brought out in 2019 to support the Doom Eternal release. It was the year of Doom last year, and they basically, because Bethesda now have the rights, released Doom 1 and Doom 2 as a modern port with like 1080p resolution and you know all the mods and cons.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see an option to switch the soundtrack to the PS1 version.
That would have been very cool, man. I think they
would have been
probably
nice.
Missed a trick there, but maybe there's some kind of licensing because it was made by that guy. I don't know whether he kind of owned the rights to it.
I think there is, but then I know that Doom 64 that just got a modern port recently.
Yeah.
And that's got Aubrey Hodges' music on it. He's done the soundtrack for that as well. So I don't know.
Okay. But... Yeah, we could just sit here and watch Doom. Okay, so we just mentioned the remaster, and it was the year of Doom with Doom Eternal. So what we normally ask in this show is how you would yourself remaster a game. We'll remaster the game that you're coming to talk about. So you'll see in the future other guests coming on. And it just so happens that this one has already been remastered, so it kind of almost renders that question redundant. But would you remaster it in the same way they did? Would you go the same route? Or would you? What would you add to that remaster? What do you actually think of it? Did you think it was any good, being a fan?
So in short, I really liked it. I thought the 2016 reboot was awesome. Like I'll go into why I thought it was, because if you got to think as well, it come off the back of Doom 3, which Doom 3 was a really different beast from Doom 1, Doom 2, and Final Doom. Like Doom 3 was a much more atmospheric. It was more of a horror game.
I still enjoyed that as well. Yeah, I think they did a pretty good. Well, I haven't gone back to it, but at the time, I remember enjoying it for kind of like a horror experience and graphical kind of showpiece.
I mean, at the time, it was pushing boundaries. id Software have always pushed graphical boundaries, like with the lighting in that they had. I remember it being like a big deal. But I think coming off the back of that, and then what they did on the 2016 reboot is really lean back into what originally made Doom, which is like the adrenaline, the speed, the viscera, the gore, the action, the awesome weapons, and those huge kind of arenas of battle that just made it so exciting. And the soundtrack in the reboot as well is absolutely awesome. It just gets your blood pumping.
Yeah, the soundtrack is something special, man, as well.
You just want to go in and just glory kill. And the glory kill, that was absolutely awesome.
That's such a good design feature to kind of make you want to rush, when you've got no health, rush in close to an enemy. It's so kind of counterintuitive that you got to get like stuck in and get that health pickup or that ammo. And it just works really well. And like, I think people were buzzed for it when they saw it, and then when they actually got it in their hands, they were absolutely loving it.
I mean, I can't fault it. If I was going to answer the question, how would I remaster Doom? I think they've already done it, and I think I would have done it exactly the same way. There's very little I could say to put that game down. I still need to play Doom Eternal. I'm going to be playing Doom Eternal pretty soon, and I'm really excited for it. But that 2016 reboot was awesome.
Yeah, it was good. So yeah, well, in a word, it is pretty fantastic, isn't it?
Doing all right, the Doom.
They're doing all right with it. I think I like the way they're going. Doom Eternal, I did download it. I have got it, but It didn't quite grab me as much as the 2016. I don't know whether it's just because they put a lot more emphasis on movement, but just again, like as far as the graphics go, and using like the super shotgun with the hook on it, like with the grapple on it. Meat hook, is it a meat hook? You know, there's still
I'm yet to play it, so I still need to.
So you got that to look forward to.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the testaments to how good Doom is and was is now the resurgence that we're having of games of that genre. They're calling them boomer shooters now. It's coming back in a big way. Like Realms Deep 2020 was a big event this year, it was 3D Realms, which is kind of, you wouldn't have had 3D Realms and Duke Nukem without id Software and Doom, that are now pushing a re-release of all of these games. Like you've got games like Blood, Sin, lots of 90s shooters and that genre.
Blood was amazing. I used to love Blood. And it had loads of film quotes in it as well.
Yeah. Blood is bonkers. It's so hard as well. I can't do the hardest difficulty of Blood. It's so difficult. But I think for a long time, the emphasis for games, I think games in general, but shooters specifically, was the realism. Realism became like the focus. You had your CODs, your Battlefields, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But every now and again, you just want to pick up a shotgun or a chainsaw and murder your way through some demons and just have a stupid...
Not have to sit through like a briefing of what you're about to do. Just jump straight in and just play. And I think that's why you got people like us still talking about it now, because it does just play so well. And people still want to watch it as well. People want to play it. So it's still alive on the retro streams on Twitch if you ever look at any of those. So people are still playing it, and it's just that gameplay. Like you're saying, the gameplay loop is kind of faultless. And I'll still double down on like the sound design on that game is just so satisfying to hear the reloads the shotgun and the super shotgun in the second one. It just something about it triggers, like even the way they die, like that last kind of breath
groan,
they take. Yeah, all different groans and that as well. And when like you get an imp with like the one shot with the shotgun, it makes its own little satisfying noise. They knew what they were doing, man.
And the interesting fact about that is that the way, this is what I like about kind of that early game design as well. I mean, I say early, it's 90s, it's not super early, but a lot of it feels so kind of like a labor of love and so ingenious in the way that they did it, because a lot of those sounds you hear are like Jaguar noises slowed down and like distorted with audio effects, and you know a lot of the sounds you're hearing are animal noises and stuff like that. I think the imp is a pig or something. When it does, it's like it's a pig making a honk noise, but you'd never know. Not a honk noise, an oink noise, but you'd never know until you hear it, and then you go, "Oh God, it's a pig! It's a piggle."
Yeah, I could do an impression of the pink getting done with a shotgun.
Perfect.
It's good, isn't it? It's like it's mint. They should have got me
you
doing
in.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, they should have. Yeah.
so good. I did it twice.
I like the zombie one that when he gets shot. It's kind of like
And the fact that there was one other feature in that I was surprised with. I don't know whether it was in the PlayStation one or not, but I know in the PC, if they weren't looking at you and you shot, then they knew you were there. Like you woke up the room instead of things being auto. That was another step that people might not realize. You know, if you're coming into games, well, more recent games now, all of these little things, all of these little steps had to be made, and just the fact that they reacted to you making a noise in the room was something different. So you could basically stealth up to the back of somebody if they weren't looking at you.
Yeah.
And also
we
with the
take
fact
that for granted now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, all those the tiny little things. And when if like an enemy hit another enemy and they would fight between themselves, like that was mind blowing to me as well. It's like, man, these guys just hate everybody in the room. They don't care.
Even them, they don't even care at all. They just go at it. I loved that as well. I loved that you could get them fighting and you could just kind of back off and just watch the chaos. It was great.
Yeah, it's good. So in conclusion, every version you're going to play is going to be pretty damn decent. So go back and check out that PS1 version. If you get the chance to, get yourself an old PS1 and just experience it that way. And just for if you want a refresh of your Doom experience. But there's loads of versions out there. You got like the 360 version you can play on the Xbox. You got all the PC versions. You got your Unity version too. That N64 version. If you get,
I think the Unity port is the way to play the game right now, because they did such a good job on bringing that up to modern standard and adding in like modern sort of quality of life features for that version. You get it as part of the Doom Slayer collection on Xbox One and PS4. It's got Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, Doom 2016 all in one bundle. You can't go wrong. It's just so much fun. It's hours of fun.
Boom.
Buckets of fun.
Okay, so we'll wrap that up there. Thanks for tuning in to this personal deep dive of Doom. I have been Dave from Dave Against the Gamers. I want to thank Golgo Gibbon, who is streaming on Twitch. So what's your schedule at the moment, Gibbs?
So I'm Monday to Friday. I do evenings for the UK audience. I'm a UK-based streamer, so I'm basically what would be like 5:30 p.m. up to 10. 5 days of the week, Monday through Friday.
Boom, that's a hard-working streamer right there. Maybe you'll play some Doom. Go and request Doom if you go and check out his channel. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you being here and taking the time to listen to some people talk about Doom again. So take it easy and we'll see you on the next one, and we'll have some more good games lined up for you.